This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Well, we are 4 weeks away from WrestleMania. It's coming quickly. WrestleMania 39 right around the corner, less than a month now, as we welcome you to the most recent episode of the current State of WWE. I've got Anthony DeMarco with me. We're going to take a bit of a high-level overview look with WrestleMania 39, dive into Cody and Roman, and maybe some other topics as well. So welcome to the show, Anthony. How you doing, man?
Not too bad, man. As we spoke about right before we start recording here, coming off of what I assume was food poisoning, which is why I couldn't do my retro show this past week. But came and went very fast, luckily. But it's so weird. We're talking about me being sick. We're talking about WrestleMania. And it seems like just yesterday I was watching WrestleMania last year with COVID. I remember that. And I had like a week and a half off from work because obviously in Canada, COVID was still a bigger issue than it is nowadays at this time last year. But it's just crazy how much time flies.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's crazy how fast it's going to come and go. WrestleMania will be come and gone, and then we'll be in the WrestleMania Backlash season, which is always a very interesting and kind of downer season. But let's jump into it, man. As we look at WrestleMania 39, of course, it's headlined by Cody and Roman Reigns. And, you know, we won't spend the entire conversation about this. We tend to focus on it a lot, worth noting, and I think it's deservingly so, something that we talk about. But let's talk about Cody and Roman. Of course, Sami is now out of the equation here, but Cody and Roman Reigns had a confrontation this week, the very first face-to-face that they've had since Cody won the Rumble, and it was the WrestleMania main event that was announced, Roman versus Cody Rhodes. So how do you feel about their first face-to-face that took place this past week on SmackDown?
Well, my first takeaway of it was that it just reminds you how good Roman Reigns is. I thought that it was an A-plus promo from him. I thought he once again reminded you, and even me, of even if maybe you're sick of the Bloodline storyline, maybe if you even thought that he should drop the belts at the Elimination Chamber, he still is the best talent that they have right now. And I think it supersedes like his in-ring stuff. It's just his psychology, his facial expressions, his acting. It's amazing how far he's come and how much he's come into his own. And more so than that, I do think it made me more excited to see this main event. I mean, I think that Cody Rhodes certainly looks the part, if you will. I'll give him credit that he's able to give off like a presentation of a main eventer. He has something about him in that regard. But when they actually got talking, it was almost like Roman Reigns reminded me, at least, and I'll speak personally here, as to why I'm not very enthralled in this or overly excited and anticipating this match that much. And that's because they aren't even close to being on the same level. And you could make that case that, like, you know, well, Sami wasn't on the same level as Roman. He's never been a world champion. He's never competed for a world title before the Elimination Chamber. But the difference is that was Sami's whole story. That's been his gimmick since he was the underdog from the underground. We're supposed to feel like Cody Rhodes is the guy to finally have Roman meet his match. He's supposed to be on equal footing with Roman Reigns. But like Roman said, have you ever won any of these? Have you ever main evented WrestleMania? Have you even ever challenged for a world championship? And the answer is no, both in WWE and in AEW, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, I definitely think they did a good job, specifically Roman. I kind of got lost a bit when Cody started screaming and yelling at the end. I didn't really understand what the point he was trying to convey. But it was a good visual of the two shaking hands. I did find it kind of funny that like the heel looked like the babyface and vice versa, because the one guy's in a three-piece suit and the other guy's in jogging pants and a t-shirt and sneakers. Overall, I think it was good. I think it had more positive than negative. but there still were parts of me that made me realize, or made me, I guess, confirm my thoughts as to why is Cody Rhodes in this match.
It did expose Cody Rhodes a little bit, I think. I think you're right. But you know what? To your point, and to a lot of others' points I've heard this past week, I do agree that Cody does have a presence. I think he does play the part well. Whether it's authentic or where he's just doing a great acting job, I feel like he does belong. I reluctantly say that because I can't stand his babyface character. I mean, you and I are on the same page with that, but he does have a good promo. He's got a good presence. He's got a good entrance. His music's good. Like, I've got nothing negative to say about that. But I think my whole problem with this, outside of the fact that, again, Roman Reigns did a great job. I think Cody, to some degree, did a good job, too, and he was screaming as well at the end, and I'm trying to remember what the context of that was, but I would like to, at least maybe after WrestleMania, can we get away, for the love of God, can we stop talking about Dusty Rhodes? Like, I mean, that's the one thing that kills me. Dusty's been dead for years now. Like, he was one of the greatest of all time, influential. Some of his promo work, if newer fans don't or aren't familiar with Dusty Rhodes' work, go and YouTube some of his promos. They will blow you away even decades later. So, like, Dusty Rhodes is a legend, yes. But for God's sakes, can we please stop talking about Dusty Rhodes? It feels so contrived that everything has to be about Dusty. Everybody has to bring him up. Everybody has to, like, I will survive another 4 weeks of this, but I can't do much more of it. Eventually, Cody has to step out of the shadow. Eventually, WWE has to stop mentioning Dusty Rhodes, for the love of God. Please, just can we have Cody stand on his own 2 feet and have a career without mentioning his dad in a promo, or his opponent mentioning his dad in a promo?
Yeah, and I agree. And, it was, when Roman started talking about him, I was just like, that's a good pot shot, right? That, like, Roman was, like, almost Dusty's prodigy and his best student and all that. But, like, it dilutes it it is diluted, rather, because that's all it's been about. Like, I sent you that meme the other day, or I think it was yesterday, of, like, it's Cody Rhodes in, like, a video game, and, like, his description is, "My dad is Dusty Rhodes," because that's literally every promo he does. There's no substance to the Cody Rhodes character besides the fact that he's Dusty Rhodes' son. And the thing is that, like, there's a lot to tell about Cody Rhodes beyond that. Like, his story, and he kind of alluded to it at the beginning of his promo, where he said Randy Orton's understudy, Stardust, going around and making a 10,000 audience show for my indie, or how did he say it? Like,
yeah, he was making, people were saying he wouldn't get 10,000 people to show up for his indie show with his friends or something. Yeah.
Yeah, referring to AEW. So there's a lot to tell about Cody Rhodes beyond being Dusty Rhodes' son. He's been around for, 15 years? He's had so many ups and downs. Like, you could tell the story about how it's come all full circle, and, like, he had to leave and come back without going into the Dusty stuff. And I get it, that his storyline right now is, I have to finish the story. Okay, great. But once let's just say, for argument's sake, he finishes the story and he wins against Roman Reigns. Well, then what? We know nothing about you except that you had to win the title that your dad never won. So is that it? You win the title, you wash your hands, you say goodbye, it's over? Like, I want more from Cody Rhodes. Even though I'm not a huge fan of his character, like we just said, he has a presence about him. There's something to Cody Rhodes, but it's almost like they're intentionally keeping his character so shallow. Like, I know nothing about why this guy is back aside from winning the title for his dad. Like, you could have said that the first promo that you had on Monday Night Raw, maybe sprinkle it in every 5th or 6th promo or so. You could have brought it up because of Dusty's promo, or Dusty's history with Roman Reigns, but it's too much now. And I do think that you could have something with these two in terms of a WrestleMania main event that would get even someone like myself intrigued, but, like, it's too much. And then when Roman brings up Dusty in a way that I think is way more relevant and a really good, like, low blow at Cody Rhodes in a lot of ways, it doesn't feel that way, because, like you said, you're just like, okay, here we go again. We're talking about Dusty for the umpteenth time. Like, I just wish that we would find a way to build the animosity between these two beyond Dusty Rhodes.
You would think that the way that they've talked about Dusty so much, they've talked about Dusty more than Cody. You would imagine that Dusty Rhodes is having a match at Mania, not Cody. I mean, like it's too much. I understand where they're going. I totally get where they're trying to pull the emotion of fans from, losing a loved one, and continuing to live on for that person and do things that they couldn't do, or do things that you think they would be proud of you for doing. I understand that. Most of us can relate to that, of losing someone, right? Death is undefeated. It's the one thing that's undefeated. We will all eventually meet death, right? But I really don't think that continuing to hammer this home is the best long-term strategy. If it's a WrestleMania strategy, and that seems to be the case, fine, let's just get through it. But after that, I don't want to hear Dusty Rhodes' name ever again. I don't want to hear anyone doing an impression of him. I don't want to hear anything about it anymore. Like, it's not going to do Cody any favors long term. It may get him through the emotion of it. Oh my God, he's doing this for his dad. His dad would have loved this moment. All these things. You could put together some nice video packages and allow his opponents, like Roman Reigns, to take shots at him, saying, I was the son that he never had. And you know what he said about you, Cody? Nothing. Like, that was a powerful statement, saying that his dad never talked about him at all. And that certainly probably fired up Cody and changed it from his narrative of him being undesirable to whatever. Now it's he needs to win it. If that was the kind of shift this week, it's a necessity, he said. He has to win at WrestleMania. And, I don't know if that's an indication of things to come, or if it's just desperation, or whatever it is. The other thing is, when you saw Roman leave the ring, and I haven't heard many people talk about this, you'll see when he looked back at Cody, he was smiling, putting on a front that he didn't take him too seriously. But when he turned back around, he had kind of a serious, concerned face on, emotional outpouring on his face of just kind of like, oh crap. I don't know if that was intentional. I would think it is, that he in one front put out to Cody, hey, I don't take you too seriously, I don't sweat you. But then when he turned around walking up the ramp, it was just kind of very oh crap, I am a bit concerned. Did you catch that?
Yeah, and it just goes to show Roman Reigns is brilliant, I guess you could say, acting in a lot of ways. Like, he gets it. Roman Reigns gets it. He gets his character. I mean, I just, in my mind, I think that I got the vibe that Cody wasn't on par with Roman Reigns. Like, Roman Reigns to me had a completely controlled promo. He made you feel like it was a big fight feel. He got some good low blows in on Cody, some good jabs in on Cody. And Cody, it was just like we said, like, I don't even remember the context of what he was saying. Like, at the end when he was screaming and stuff, and like, like, now, like, I don't have to, like, I have to exist or something like that. Excuse me. And I don't know, like, I think Roman Reigns has something about him that no matter how much you think a main event isn't worth your while, you will always tune in because he makes you care, and that's what he did here. And Cody, to his credit, like we said, he does have a presence about him. I just think that they're going about it the wrong way. It's been way too much about Dusty, and that's been all about Cody's return, but now they're like tying it into the main event. And I just think that you have enough with Roman Reigns as a superstar. You have enough with Cody Rhodes as just like a presence and an in-ring talent that you don't have to lean on that crutch. And to me, it's just becoming like, it's too much. It's too much now. And I just hope that they can tell a bit of a different story between now and WrestleMania.
Yeah, you would think they're gonna. I mean, when you look at the number of hours they still have to create of TV time between now and WrestleMania, it's 8 hours of SmackDown, 12 hours of Raw of straight TV time. That's a hell of a lot of content. So I would imagine on Raw, when Roman doesn't show up, I'd be surprised if Roman even comes to Raw. Maybe once. Maybe it'll be the final Raw before Mania that Roman will grace us with his presence. But outside of that, I think we're going to get promo after promo of Cody Rhodes on the mic, or in sit-down interviews or video packages, in place of Roman actually being on Raw, because we know that may happen once. But as far as the whole narrative goes of his dad, yeah, I mean, I think we've made our point that it needs to shift. We'll survive to Mania with it, but after that, whether win, lose, or draw, they need to change and if you're going to allow Cody to grow, you got to have him step out of the shadow of his dad, and it's not the best way to do that if you're continuing to mention him every single time you put a microphone in front of your face. But any final thoughts on this before we move on?
No, I think that we pretty much covered it. I mean, I don't want to do that, shoot all over it.
Yeah.
My apologies. But, I mean, there were some positives from it, but there just is that lingering Cody thing that I think really needs to be rectified.
I'm with you. So, all right, well, I guess let's move on to another topic of Bobby Lashley, Bray Wyatt. I will ask you about that, and then just kind of as a whole WrestleMania to close out the show here. But Bobby Lashley, Bray Wyatt, Muscle Man dance, and on the other side, Brock and Omos. I kind of look at them together because they both went in these bizarre directions right after their final match which also was kind of a crappy ending of a low blow ending which is the weirdest blow off I've ever seen. Now, reportedly, this is according to the Torch and the Observer, the big money offer that was given to Stone Cold wasn't for Roman and Stone Cold. It was for Stone Cold versus Brock Lesnar. That was the offer to Stone Cold. Obviously, he turned that down, couldn't do it, whenever it was. So you talk about a fall from grace of a potential match of Brock Lesnar versus Stone Cold Steve Austin to Brock Lesnar Omos. And on the flip side, you've got Lashley versus Bray Wyatt. How do you feel about these two matches? Again, I'm lumping them together because I feel similarly about them.
Well, look, for Brock and Omos, I mean, it's simple, right? I believe you said on your Raw review that this match is literally built around the narrative of, okay, can Brock F5 Omos? And if and when that happens, it's going to be for the visual of him getting the 7'5" giant up and hitting him with the F5. So that one, I think it's going to be an awful match. I don't want to see it, but at least I can get the reason as to why they're doing this. Because Brock Lesnar's pretty much taken on every single giant that's come their way. The Big Show, The Undertaker, like he's always been a guy that goes up against a monster and getting that visual to see if he can actually F5 them. He did with Mark Henry as well. In terms of the Bobby Lashley, Bray Wyatt thing, I don't even know if we've gotten a reason as to why Bray Wyatt has targeted Bobby Lashley. It is probably the most oil and water type of match that they could have gone with. I don't get it. I don't imagine it's going to be a great in-ring match either. I mean, the promo work and the build is going to be something to see because Bobby Lashley isn't very good on the mic, and all Bray Wyatt does is talk in backwards riddles and video packages. So I don't know how you're going to kind of build the interest for this match. Obviously on SmackDown, you have Uncle Howdy attack Bobby Lashley. And now I'm convinced that it's Bo Dallas because of I think you kind of heard his voice come through a bit. And it really sounded like Bo Dallas. But again, that doesn't even matter anymore who the bleep Uncle Howdy even is. His identity has just taken a complete backseat. So, I mean, at least for the Brock and Omos stuff, I could see why they're going with it, even though it's a terrible idea, in my opinion. I could at least get the reason why behind it all. But with Bobby and Bray, I don't see it for numerous reasons, and I don't think they're going to mesh well in the ring either.
See, that's the thing, right? We looked at Bray Wyatt's return, and I did too. All of us did. Is exciting, and oh man, that's awesome. The White Rabbit, it's Bray Wyatt. He came back, new mask. And then he showed us his alter personality, but it was supposed to just be him. But it's also just another personality. And then he introduces this Uncle Howdy character, and we're all like, oh my God, who could it be? Who could it be? And slowly over time, we're like, okay, well, I guess they're not going to tell us. It can't be that damn important, and really, who cares? And then he finally has a match after chatting and just making, I love the phrase, it's just gobbledygook. That's exactly what he's been doing for months and months and months. And he's intriguing. We've said that, you've said that, and it's true. Regardless of how bad he is on the microphone, in terms of just simplicity and just get to the damn point, he's intriguing, and that's a very difficult skill to have or to acquire. So I give Bray Wyatt credit. I'm not saying they should release him at all. He's an excellent talent in that respect. But when you mesh him with Bobby Lashley, he's just number one, why? Number two, Bobby, like you said, Bobby is not talented on the mic. He's had good promos. He's never had a great promo. He more often than not has kind of just empty, uninspiring promos where he trips over words and it's just kind of who he is and you just accept it because of how good he looks and how good he is in the ring. So we all just kind of brush it aside and that's just who he's been for 20 years. And then, with Bray Wyatt and him together, I don't feel it. You're right. I don't think based on the match that Bray Wyatt had with LA Knight, that it's going to be exactly a really good match here. I could be wrong, but I'm not really the bar is not set too high for this match for me from just a pure wrestling perspective. Bray Wyatt's going to carry the promos on this thing because, that's just the way it's going to be with Bobby's limited skills on the mic. But as far as Lashley, or rather Lesnar and Omos go, yeah, that's I guess if I was going to pick one to watch, that would probably be the one if I had to choose between one or the other. Yeah, it's going to be fun to see, Omos get Germaned. Omos is, much more athletic than he has any business being at that size. He is better than he should be in the ring, and I give him credit for that, but his size is a limiting factor in terms of how long the match is going to go. I'd give it like 5-7 minutes tops, really. And we'll get the F5. It'll be fun. People will pop. We'll get the, the Germans. They'll try to play it during the match where I'm guessing Brock will attempt it and he can't. Oh, he's not going to be able to do it. And then finally at the end of the match, he's able to, hulk up and hit his Germans and hit the F5 and people go crazy. And, maybe Brock wins or doesn't. I don't even know if that's the point of the match. But these both feel just kind of like, this is really WrestleMania. If you had told me 6 months ago that Brock's going to be with Omos and Lashley's going to be with Bray, I mean, what? I mean, I don't know. I hope these both over-deliver and over-perform. I really am rooting for all four of these men, but it's very uninspiring given the mass talent that's in these matches. It's almost some of the worst combinations you could put together.
And I feel like that's kind of what's going on with all of WrestleMania, right? I mean, there isn't really, except for the women's division. I will have to say that I'm intrigued with Ripley versus Charlotte. I think that's the match I'm most intrigued with. And Bianca versus Asuka, not as much, but I think it's going to be a really good in-ring contest. But from the men's side, I mean, now you're going to have a number one contenders match for the Intercontinental Championship next week. I assume it's going to be Drew McIntyre. Like, that's just my guess based on the competitors in it. I assume we're going to get Dominic versus Ray, which will be a very, I guess, anticipated match given everything that's gone on since Clash at the Castle. I mean, Edge versus Finn Balor, I think, haven't they been talking about a Hell in a Cell for that? Like, yeah. I'm so over that, to be honest, that whole match and that whole rivalry. There's just a lot of matches here that I really feel nothing for. And you know what? Like, there's been past WrestleManias I felt that way too. And I think aside from the main event last year, it was a very good WrestleMania. I think they did a hell of a job. So maybe I'll be wowed this time around as well. But it's just, it feels weird to me saying this, especially since Triple H took over. But it just feels like a lot of these matches were just thrown together at the last second. And I mean, you saw that with the Brock and Omos stuff along with Bobby and Bray. You're kind of seeing that with the Intercontinental Championship. I'm sure that the U.S. title match, I'm just assuming it's going to be Cena versus Austin Theory. That's going to be good. But I mean, there's just a lot of the main matches here that I just don't feel a lot for. And again, I could be wrong. It's happened to me in the past where I go in not expecting a lot and then I'm really pleased at the end of a WrestleMania. But just to this point, I'm not really all that excited for WrestleMania as a whole.
No, and I know that people are, maybe they disagree with us, and that's great. If you're excited for WrestleMania, I mean, that's wonderful. I just, it depends on how you're looking at this. I guess it's based on also our expectations for WrestleMania, which, to be fair, as fans, sometimes are, almost at an unfair level as fans to expect from WWE at times. But when you look at this card, it is uninspiring. The matches that have been thrown together are, like, we don't even have any reasons why they're together right now, and we're a month out of Mania. We didn't get any Austin match. We don't have a good Brock Lesnar match. John Cena's with Austin Theory, and that'll be fun, but John Cena, I think, should have been paired with Edge based on their history. I mean, I would have loved to have seen John Cena and Edge They're both able to go, and the history that they have, you could have had some amazing promos with them, and I don't know. That's how I would have booked it. But then, of course, Gunther is, to me, one of the shining lights that's going to be at WrestleMania, and I love how this week he said, hey, my concern is I don't have a worthy opponent. I'm like, yeah, that's actually kind of true. Like, who the hell, like, really? Like, that is very true. I love how just his whole demeanor, how he treats the sport, utmost respect. I don't even know how he's booked as a heel, but other than just, okay, he's a different nationality. Is that the reason? Because he's a legit badass. So I would imagine it's also Drew and Gunther one-on-one, but then where do you put Sheamus? Sheamus has had a hell of a year. I mean, and so how can you leave him off the card in any kind of match? So there's rumors of a triple threat with Sheamus, Drew, and Gunther. I wouldn't hate it. So that I think if that happens, both options are really good. But yeah, as a whole, the women's division, good. I think that there is some inspiring matches there with the proposed tag team match that hasn't been announced yet of Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler versus Becky Lynch and Lita for the women's tag titles. So that's intriguing on a couple of levels. But yeah, like, you look into this and I'm like, you're looking for that big match. Like, there's usually one or two matches that you're like, oh man, I can't wait for this. And there's not, they aren't there for me. Cody and Roman, you and I have completely killed at length with our thoughts on that. But like, maybe it's because we were waiting on the Rock Roman that never happened, and we've been teased for that for like 40 years that's going to happen, and then it doesn't. No Stone Cold. Like, maybe it's one of those things that, like, the expectations have been decreasing towards WrestleMania instead of increasing. And I don't know. I hope you're right too. I'm rooting for everyone, because I hope I come out of this going, man, I want to eat my words. That was a great event. I hope I'm wrong.
And we forgot to talk about Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul, and that's going to be an amazing in-ring contest. But again, it kind of feels like a kick in the pills to Seth Rollins, especially the fact that he's been talking about the WWE Championship for how long now? 4 or 5 months. I assume that we're going to get him back in the title picture eventually, maybe by the summertime. But again, first and foremost, I think that's contingent on them splitting the titles. I think that's something that absolutely is imperative following WrestleMania in some form or fashion. Like, I read some spoiler that at Backlash it's going to be a triple threat between Roman, Cody, and Seth for only the WWE Championship. So maybe that's something that is like a long-term thing that they're thinking of. But I mean, it's I hope I come away thinking differently. Like, it's happened to me a lot at WrestleMania that they put on such a show and the in-ring product is just so good that I come away saying, like, you know what, the build wasn't the best, but they did a great job when the chips were down. But there definitely is a bit of a lack of star power in a lot of ways, which is weird to say because you have Seth Rollins, you have Roman Reigns, you have Brock. But I think post-pandemic era, we've lacked like those legacy stars. And not to say that you need legacy stars, but, well, I guess John Cena is going to be here this time around, presumably. So, I mean, he's still around, so he'll be there. But, I mean, I think a lot of it comes to the fact, and my buddy said this today, is that the entire build and, I guess, anticipation around WrestleMania Hollywood was with the assumption that it was going to be The Rock versus Roman Reigns. And ever since we found out that wasn't happening, it's all kind of been downhill.
I think that's a big part of it. If right now we're talking about Rock Roman, finally, oh my God, this is going to be awesome. The promos have been really good. I can't wait to see what happens the next few weeks for the build. Maybe we'd be feeling totally different about this card. I mean, sometimes a match or two can completely change how you feel about an event, because a lot of times matches and pay-per-views are sold by one or two matches. I mean, that's why you're the main event. That's why you get the top money. That's why you're the marquee. Is a lot of times people will buy a pay-per-view like boxing matches or MMA fights. Like, people buy usually for the main event and go, well, if the rest of the card's good, then, it's kind of a bonus. I'm really buying this event. I want to see this event for the main event. Let's be honest, a lot of times that's the case. And so maybe that is what kind of took the lifeblood out of our excitement, is the Rock Roman is not happening. Even if he shows up, great, that'll be a fun surprise in some form or fashion. But people are going to look at that and go, man, you're here, but you couldn't do, you couldn't wrestle Roman. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that might be part of it. And as I look towards Backlash, you were talking about Backlash, I think it's still called WrestleMania Backlash. Yeah, I think it is. But let's call it Backlash here. So I looked at the date on that. That's May 6th this year. And the reason I looked at that and cared about the date is because, again, the 1,000 days. Roman hits the 1,000 days. I think it's like May 26th, May 27th. They're not going to get to 980 days and go, well, yeah, he's going to lose it at WrestleMania Backlash. So if he gets through WrestleMania, immediately he's not losing it probably until maybe SummerSlam. Money in the Bank is possible, given they're trying to make this a massive event at the O2 Arena overseas. So it means possible Money in the Bank. But again, this is where we're starting the cycle all over again, going, well, okay, he retained at Mania. Now we can skip over the Backlash event because they're going to get to him 1,000 days automatically. And then you're going, well, he wouldn't lose it at a B pay-per-view. So when's the next big stadium event? Okay, maybe Money in the Bank. Wait, no, SummerSlam. Like, here we go again. Like, here we're back into that same cycle.
Yeah, and I do think that maybe they have an out with the WWE Championship, right? Because his run is as the Universal Champion. So do you think maybe he could drop the WWE title at Backlash alone?
I hope, yes. I mean, I've said this in the beginning. I have stuck by this for a year. I don't care how sloppy the creative is. I will give it a pass for however they want to do it. Whatever weird fine print was in the contract that Paul Heyman missed or Paul Heyman put in there that was, so if Roman loses, it's only the WWE title and, fine. Like, I don't care. I don't care if Adam Pearce comes out and strips him of it. I don't care if Vince comes back just to make a cameo appearance to strip him of it. I don't care how or who or when it's done, or I do care when, but how it's done really is irrelevant to me because of the necessity to make it happen. Do I think it's going to happen though? Probably not. Given that they're like, well, guys, we're already into this deep. We know how to manage Raw without the championship. People are used to it now. The U.S. title is at an all-time high in terms of value. Why are we going to strip Roman of one of them and then pretend that he has an equal counterpart over on Raw? We want Roman to be the guy. He is the face. He is the one champion. We don't want an equal. I mean, that's probably the argument against it, but obviously you and I, without going into any of it, because we've done that, is, obviously there's a lot of problems with that. So I don't think they do it, at least at WrestleMania or in the months preceding. It probably won't happen again until Mania. They probably won't drop it until he's completely void of championships. I don't think that's what they're thinking right now.
Yeah, no, you make a good point. It feels like it's all Roman, at least until the 1,000 days in May, whenever I forget the date that you said. But
yeah,
I mean, I assume by SummerSlam this year it's going to be wrapped up. But I mean, I can't say I'm upset because that would presumably mean that he's going to defeat Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, which I do think is the correct decision.
Agreed. Yeah, and those of you that are out there who are like, hey, I love Cody Rhodes as a babyface, and you're on the opposite end of it, like, cool. But you can't objectively tell me that Cody Rhodes is the right guy to do this right now. He's an inch away from being a 1,000-day champion. They'd make a massive celebration out of it. He will forever go down in the record books. You and me and everyone listening, likely in our lifetimes, will not see another 1,000-day champion. It's really, for many of us, and I don't mean to be morbid about this, may not, again, in our life, ever see another 1,000-day champion. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event that we're living through, even if it's painful for some of us. So I don't think they're going to really take that away from Roman for Cody Rhodes, to coming out of left field to beat Roman at WrestleMania. There'll be some kind of hanky-panky going on in the match, even if The Rock comes in to interfere. And I don't know. There's things that we can talk about in the weeks coming up, but I don't think they're going to sacrifice anything at this point at the altar of 1,000 days. Everything is leading to that 1,000, and then after 1,000, I think anything is up in the air, depending on what's going on with Jey Uso, who I think is already a massive babyface, and there's. Yeah, obviously we can maybe discuss that next week of what exactly is the path for Jay. It may not be as clear as we think. So once we get past 1,000 guys, then we can start talking about, I think, realistically, okay, Roman really can drop it now. The 1,000's over. So.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best bet for everyone. And, at this point, you're two months out, a little over 2 months out. You might as well just get there. Like, you're just about to get over the finish line. even as someone who's admittedly kind of said that over the past couple of months, he maybe should have dropped it. At this point, you just have to do it. And then all bets are off once you pass that 1,000 days.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely. So, well, yeah, I mean, again, I'm glad you came on tonight. I'm glad we could connect. I'm glad you're feeling better. And, yeah, we've got 4 weeks to go, man. We'll be connecting next week. But before we go, did you want to give any plugs or anything? I know this week you didn't have a retro show, but if you have any ideas for this week's upcoming show, did you have something on the agenda?
I have a few pay-per-views in mind, but I don't always want to just default to reviewing pay-per-views of yesteryear. But there's also some storylines maybe I want to touch on, so I haven't narrowed it down completely yet. And after last week when I started to try and record it and I couldn't, I don't know if I want to go right back to that one, so I'm not going to spoil anything just yet.
Cool. Yeah, leave us hanging. I like that. So,
Exactly.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, man. You take care, and we'll be talking in a week.
Sounds good, man. Talk soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.